All right, the Gamecocks are set to head into pin relays this weekend. But Coach Frye, before we talk about that, let's go back to the USC Open final home track meet of the season for you guys. 18 different victories for the team. Love to talk about all 18. We don't have that much time, but of course the highlight of the whole thing, TT running his 20 flat in the 200 meters. Seems like he's ready to peak at the right time and make a run for conference and national titles in the 200.
Well, you know, TT is a special gift. Yeah, it's a great gift, and it's taken us some time to get this far. But he realized when he came here, he was recommended to us by a former teammate, and the guy said he's better than me, and that guy had run 10 flat and 20 flat, and at that point, TT. Was not. You know, his legitimate non-altitude time was like 2070, and this guy was sea level time of 20 flat, and went on to be a pro athlete that year. And so, but he gave me TT's number in Russia at the World Championship in 2013, and early on, TT came in here in January, and he only had a freshman year of indoors. And he couldn't run outdoors, which was frustrating because he qualified for the nationals that year, but then he had to sit the whole spring and wait, and that was tough for him. And he got a slow start the sophomore year, and still made it to the nationals, and then outdoors got through a relay. So it's been a progress, and he's done a great job managing that because it's to be all the way his whole goal because he already has a pilot's license. He'd been out of college 2 years to do that, and he transferred in with those credits that came out of him going to pilot school. And so his main goal was to become a world-class athlete. You know, we were convincing him that he could come here and compete, and we could help him compete on an Olympic level, and that didn't happen. You know, he didn't make the World Championship team, and so that had to be a struggle for him, knowing that he could already be employed, sure, and come here and be a student.
But he has really matured into one of the country's best 200-meter sprinters, and he's not the only person that you've got on the team that, as we get towards postseason, is making a run at possibly being a national champion and certainly a first-team All-American. Josh Awatunde won the shot put again this past weekend at home. I know it wasn't a PR, but still looks like he's in good shape. Rugi's doing well for you. You've got Milan Parks, who's really coming on in the 100-meter hurdles for you on the women's side. And it seems like Jan, although he didn't have a PR this week, Jan's set his PR 3 or 4 different times in the outdoor season. So you got a big group of athletes right now that are really starting to put things together as the regular season comes to a close.
You know, that's kind of our plan. You know, we want to be constantly a top 20 team, a top 15 team, and with our new facilities coming online and the excitement around Carolina, I mean, to have things like our golf team winning conference and our soccer team winning the conference and getting ranked high, those are places that our track team have for many years accustomed to having. Facilities we've just had the greatest recruiting class. So facilities put you in those positions, but we expect Ty to come on, and last year he was 4th in the country, so we're at a point where he's starting to get back into it. So to have Ty and to have Rugi and to have Jan and to have those athletes, they give us the chances, and then having Milan start developing into where we got to get her to a championship and through a championship and a final in a championship. So those are stages, and most of the time junior years is when those things happen. It happened for Ty that way, happened for same thing with TT, same thing with now as a junior last year. That happened for Josh. So athletes go through the process, and if they hang tough through the process, because it's difficult, you know, not hitting your high school best or going through weight rooms, going through injuries, those things play into the development of an athlete, and it's just hard to keep them on that because their expectation, champions expect to be champions all the time.
One thing I know that you were super impressed with from the way that your team performed last week wasn't necessarily even, like you said, the frontline athletes that are going to be moving on to Penn and conference and regionals and then hopefully nationals. But you guys had a ton of PRs, a ton of victories up and down the board. I know you had a couple PRs in the hammer. I think it was 4 PRs on the women's side in the 800. You had Bryce clearing a couple bars he's never cleared before in the pole vault. Women's 1500 set some PRs. I think there was something like 36 in total. And that has to be rewarding for you as a coach, that up and down the lineup, not just the kids that you and I talk about every week, but every single athlete you've got really seems to have improved this year.
Well, it's still a case of the process. You know, Bryce is a junior, and the struggles that Coach Brown's gone through, the injuries he's gone through from high school, you know, it's almost give up. You know, my back hurts, and he stick with it. Our coaches, we have a tremendous coaching, mature coaches, you know, because student athletes go through those things that if they're not 5-star athletes out of high school, there's a different expectation. They don't know that they're not at that 5-star. It's like everybody goes to Duke as a perfect SAT and a perfect grade point out of high school, and everybody graduates. Well, the same happens with a lot of institutions. They get the 5-star kid in, and that kid produces 5-star right away. What we do is develop our student to being top students that go on to great postgraduate work and go on to become doctors, but they came in at 1,200 or they came in with 1,000 SAT. The same with our athlete. I mean, they may have a good PR, but a PR is not who you are. It's how many times. It takes 3 times to have a really who you are. That's a PR. So our kids have learned, and I'm so happy. What you're seeing is happy kids. When you take developing kids and they have personal bests, they understand that they got a process, and they understand that we are not judging them to be an SEC level. We're judging them to be the best level that they can be personally. And as long as you're being the best person you can be in life, it's a lesson for you. It's if you're getting better than you were yesterday, that's all you can control. How much better is controlled if you get better the next day. So, but you cannot do better than your best. And so our kids, that's something that we've gone through. We try to tell them that's where you go, and they're buying in.
I know one of the experience that you really like giving those kids too is Penn relays, and that's what's coming up this week for you. I think you've been, if not every year, as South Carolina head coach, certainly almost every year. It's been going on 2 decades now that we go to this meet every year. It's a special atmosphere. I know you have a lot of history there, but you also are going to accomplish some things. So tell me a little bit as we wrap up about what Penn Relays means to your program, and also what you what goals you have for this week for your team.
You know, quality of experience for a student athlete is very important to me. Going to Navy Academy to begin this season was to create a quality of experience about something and dedication for other people that go through things that we take for granted, that are not that just happen because we live in America. We needed to do that so our kids can get something, and maybe they will get it later. But privilege is something that having a college opportunity to go is not a It's not a right, it's a privilege to be a college athlete. And going to Penn Relays to be rewarded and be in an atmosphere for what you do, it gets recognition. Many times the sport of track and field, for a person that goes through the sport, pays the price. There's nobody that wants to recognize it. I mean, unless you are making money, or unless you are someone that the general public just follows. Track and field gets followed once in every 4 years, the Olympic Games. But the everyday track kid doesn't get to feel the feeling that I feel that team sports kids get when they're around 80,000 people in the stands. You can be a loser and people know who you are because they come and watch the competition between teams. Well, at the Penn Relays, there's 80,000 people. Nowhere else in America can you get that feel for your sports. So I want my kids to have that quality of student experience that a football player gets, that a basketball player gets. And I wish that tennis could get that for a collegiate kid. I wish that volleyball, smaller sports that don't get the recognition unless you play in Wimbledon or you play at the Masters. Unless you're a college kid that is good enough to play on those levels, then in turn you don't get a chance to have European relays. Our Penn Relays gives our kids the second most positive experience for a student athlete in the sport. No place. So you have 125,000 people in 3 days observe the sport and understand what's going on. When you make a mistake at Penn Relays, the fan that's there ran track, loves track, and travels around the world to see track.
Should be a lot of fun. Gamecocks get rolling Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Coach, we'll talk to you each day after the meet is done. Appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.